Another Sunday, another day we need to break down not only the Alabama against Tennessee game, which was really interesting, and there's a few things we need to talk about, but also the newest installment of the AP rankings, because there's some shakeup not only within the top 10, but more specifically within the top 4 that we really need to get into. Before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. 2 things today. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. First, are you surprised at how Alabama handled Tennessee? And secondly, do you agree with the newest installment of the AP rankings? If no, let me know what your top 10 are. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy this content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions, though small, are really massive to content creators such as myself in getting both picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all of that being said, we've got a lot to unpack here, so let's start with this Alabama against Tennessee game, which was really intriguing. Tennessee actually held a lead, which was very surprising to myself, but ultimately Alabama was able to come back and really handle this game well. Bryce Young continues to be absolutely sensational for this Alabama offense. We've seen him do it with his arm. We've seen him use his legs to spring open passing lanes, to keep plays alive. But yesterday, we really saw what he can do running the football. And Bryce Young is an individual that is incredibly twitchy, and he put that on full display yesterday. His ability to make guys miss is uncanny. And he's twitchier than he is fast, but he's got enough speed to really make a defense fear his ability to run. When you mix the speed he does have with that twitchiness, that's when you see him making guys miss and being able to consistently get positive gains running the football. When you mix that ability with the ability he has to keep plays alive, scrambling and keeping his eyes downfield, and his arm talent, it is really difficult to stop a guy like him, because when you're looking at what he does well, he's checking box after box after box. And perhaps the most frightening thing, if you are not an Alabama fan, the young man is only a sophomore. He's on his second offensive coordinator, and he's still got another year within college football to continue growing, and I can promise you this, he will continue growing throughout the process of this season. This young man has unbelievable ability. If I were voting right now, he would be my Heisman favorite. I know I am biased in this, but in fairness to my bias, I think that Bryce Young absolutely deserves that. Matt Corral, there have been a lot of very good football players this year, but Bryce Young has been sensational, and yesterday he put the arm talent on display. We've seen that consistently this year, but yesterday he showed us just how dangerous he is as a runner, and when he needs to, he can really make a defense pay. Speaking of defense, though, the Alabama defense is one that continues to be a little bit puzzling. Alabama's defense will have streaks of playing like a really solid unit. When everybody is understanding their job, they're able to capitalize. Now, in fairness, Tennessee goes with a really high tempo, and that can throw off a defense. It can also cause problems for your offense, which is part of the reason why we saw so many flags against Tennessee's offense. When you're going this tempo, you're more prone to some of these penalties like false starts, and that killed the Volunteers yesterday. But the flip side of that is if you're able to get these plays off cleanly, you can catch a Josh Jobe looking for a play call, and the receiver runs right by him for a big touchdown. Because if you look at this game just looking at the end score, it really doesn't tell the whole story. In fact, if you watch the game, Tennessee really wasn't able to sustain drives. They were able to rattle off touchdowns, but that was more or less because of a busted coverage in one, Josh Jobe looking for a play, and Tennessee's tempo absolutely paying off, which, look, that's the whole point of tempo, so good on Tennessee there, no doubt about it. That's something that shouldn't have happened. It happened. Hats off to them. That's why they run tempo. Needs to be adjusted. But you get my point. The overarching point here is it wasn't sustained success that Tennessee was hurting Alabama's defense with. In fact, it was chunk plays, a busted coverage, the play where Josh Jobe was looking for the snap, and then a penalty that was incredibly costly to give Tennessee their second touchdown. When Alabama's defense showed up, stopping them on third down, Tennessee punts the ball, and Alabama runs into the punter, giving Tennessee a first down, which ultimately led to a long touchdown. Those things right there, if they can be cleaned up, we're really looking at this game in an entirely different light. Because if you watch the game, there were lapses of Alabama's defense being the defense many of us have been clamoring for, have been knowing is there, we just haven't seen it consistently. And there was one play in particular I highlighted that brought joy to my heart. It was a 3rd and 1 in which Tennessee handed it off, which, by the way, we talk about Tennessee, how Alabama should have handled Tennessee, and they easily should have. right? There's no contention there. But I think we also need to recognize what this opponent did well. Coming into this game, they had the 4th most rushing yards in college football, so they were a team that had something that demanded respect. And on a 3rd and 1, they tried utilizing that rushing attack that has been so successful for them all season. The running back chooses his gap and is met instantly by Christian Harris. Now, when this running back sees Christian Harris fill the gap making the play, he tries to bounce to a different gap. Christian Harris gets there, gets his hands on him, but the running back bounced right in time to be able to maybe get away. But he was not able to, because as soon as Christian Harris filled his gap, made the running back choose a different gap, and Harris had his arms on him, Henry To'o stepped up in the only other open gap where the running back was trying to find daylight and snuffed it out, stopping that potential first down. That was a great play because the inside linebackers have been a contentious unit because of the up and down play. And in that play right there, I think it really utilized and showed why so many people were so excited for those two individuals, the explosion they have. When everything's going right, those two can be phenomenal. And we saw that in spurts yesterday with Alabama's defense. Will Anderson continues to be an absolute terror on the football field. I think he probably is the best defensive player in football, certainly one of them. He has 15.5 tackles for loss, or at least he did through the early portions of that game before he notched a few more, leading the FBS. Coming off of a weekend where he got 4 sacks last week, the young man is on an absolute tear, and he is the Terminator for a reason. The last thing I want to highlight for the Crimson Tide is Jameson Williams and Brian Robinson. Jameson Williams, I absolutely do believe that whenever we do this re-ranking of the transfers, which is something I'm going to do a little bit later into the season, giving everybody a little bit more time to put some more film out there, Jameson Williams might have been the best transfer in America. If y'all think there's someone better, absolutely, please drop it below. I'll check it out, take the time, really do some digging, because Jameson has been unbelievable for the Crimson Tide. His athleticism has been put on full display, and this is one of those moves where Jameson is benefiting just as much as Alabama is benefiting, and that's exactly what you hope the transfer portal creates. Jameson Williams is actually an indication of the best case scenario for the transfer portal, and I know some people are sitting there saying, yeah, but the rich got richer. But at the end of the day, this is college football, and this is about the kids. And now he's being able to showcase his talent. That's the best case scenario for the transfer portal. That's how we need to hope it happens, that a young man can find success and have an opportunity to really show why he was so lauded. But with that being said, let's move into the AP talk because there was some shakeup. And in our top 4, we have a new pecking order. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Cincinnati. Number 3, Alabama jumps back in at the number 3 spot. Oklahoma at number 4. At number 5, we have Ohio State. 6, Michigan. 7, Oregon. 8, Michigan State. 9, Iowa. 10, Ole Miss. Now, I know the interesting thing in this is Alabama jumping Oklahoma at number 3, Alabama being the only team within the top 4 with a loss. And I know that that is going to be a major point of contention. This, however, is what I will say. When Alabama is playing their best football, most people have recognized they are a top 2 team in the country. They are Georgia. Georgia has a vaunted defense. We're very interested in seeing just who this offense is, but Georgia has been spectacular this year. But when everything is going right for Alabama, they are absolutely a top 4 team in this country, and I don't think there's really a question about it. At the end of the day, when you're looking at it right now, Alabama has some of the better wins in this top 4. In fact, they have a win which they slaughtered Ole Miss, who now comes in at the number 10 spot. Ole Miss has a top 5 offense, and Alabama's defense was really able to go in there and capitalize. Alabama's offense has been explosive. Their defense, though inconsistent, has shown flashes of the defense we all hoped it could be. It's just about getting it at a more consistent basis. I think that the very interesting thing here, though, is that Cincinnati stays number 2. Cincinnati had a struggle win against Navy, and we understand that's never easy playing that academy, but at the same time, Oklahoma dropped off of a struggle win to Kansas. But the simple truth of the matter is Oklahoma has struggled with teams they shouldn't have, and the Kansas game wasn't exactly a one-off, because we had that same conversation after Tulane. We had the same conversation after Nebraska. We had the same conversation after Kansas State, and now we find ourselves having the same conversation off of Kansas. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying I'm out on OU. I still think they have the talent. I think when guys get healthy, it's going to be better, and I ultimately think with Caleb Williams, this offense will continue to grow. He's only a freshman, so seeing seeing Oklahoma's offense have a little bit of sputtering is only natural. He's a freshman quarterback. It's not going to be highs the entire season. That wouldn't be conducive to being able to grow. He will grow from that game. He will be better from that game. And then on the defensive side, Oklahoma, once they can get some guys back, it will be very helpful for that team in moving forward. Ohio State is a team we really need to keep our eyes on. They had the loss to Oregon, but they have bounced back, and they are playing some good football. Luckily for Ohio State, I talked about this a few weeks ago, you hold the keys. When you look at the schedule remaining, you have Michigan, you have Michigan State, and then you have whoever you're going to play on the other side, giving you multiple ranked teams to go up against. So that's going to be good for the Ohio State Buckeyes and something we need to keep an eye on. I'm very interested in hearing from y'all because I think there will be a lot of contention about this new AP rankings. And even though I think Alabama is certainly, without question, one of the best 4 teams in the nation, and I actually think they are deserving of that number 3 spot, given how they performed against Mississippi State, completely shutting down a quarterback that has been fantastic this year in Will Rogers. Look up how many yards he's thrown for, and then look what Alabama was able to contain him to. And then this week against Tennessee, if you watch the game without looking at the score, it was kind of a tale of the two tapes, right? You look at the score and you think it was much closer than the game actually was, with Tennessee really just banging off chunk plays, and once Alabama was able to find the rhythm of success on offense, it wasn't able to be stopped. Brian Robinson has been phenomenal for the Crimson Tide this year, so that's really awesome to see. Really interested in hearing from y'all on both how you thought Alabama played Tennessee and then your opinion on the new AP ranks. That's it. See ya.